Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. Today's video is about another project that I have my eyes on. I haven't accumulated yet, but I want to go through this because I think it's going to be very interesting. I'm just waiting for a dip. I'm also intrigued to know how many of you hold this token already. Today's token is going to be about XRPayNet. So on the actual exchange or exchanges when you are purchasing this, it comes under the token of XRPayNet. So guys, this is going to be interesting. Do check out our other videos on the channel. Loads of different discussions and topics, as I'm sure you know already. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. Do smash the subscribe button to get notified of all the videos that come your way as and when we release them. So we're going to go straight into this. I find this really interesting, mainly because of my interactions with retail over many years. I'm not just talking about being a purchaser or a consumer, which of course I am amongst everyone else in the world, but my principles in retail marketing that I've always done throughout my career. I've been heavily involved in integrations through distribution and loads of different vendors, brands going into retail, right? And even from a grassroots perspective of learning consumer behavior, how and why people buy things, why things positioned in certain places, etc., etc. But what has been very apparent over the last, I would say, 5 or so years is, of course, the integration of things like cashless payments, right? This cashless society terminology that I've been going on for a long time. People didn't believe me when I said that there's a motive to do this. And of course, blockchain and cryptography, cryptocurrencies in general are going to be the resolution to this, the answer to how we will do this moving forwards. We covered even last year about Royal Mail here in the UK, allowing a deadline which has passed now for people to be able to utilize the old banknotes and have to then therefore bring them into the bank or the post office to convert them into new money. Once you do that, you then obtain the missing money that's been gone for decades under people's mattresses, etc., back into a trackable system. Whether they give you, for now, cash, new cash money, new cash paper, or they give you digital money in the sense of you don't have physical money, it's just transferred back and forth through your bank account, through your debit card, etc. I mean, at the end of the day, right, money is essentially out of thin air, and we're just looking at random numbers in our portfolios, right, or our banks. So we've got these narratives, we've got this information, but what is really interesting is the development, of course, of cryptocurrency. And people always ask me, what's the best Visa card? What's the best card that I can use my crypto with? And I'm always like, well, first of all, think about that anyway, because you're basically getting investments and then chucking it back into the system anyway, which almost partially defeats the object of decentralization and centralization, the versus aspect. But the point being is that if we do have cryptocurrency moving forward in its variations, I mean, we're talking about thousands of different assets now, right? If you have the ability to use these and you do have funds within each of these projects or assets that you hold, then this is going to really drive a new economy, and it's going to drive new business potentially as well. Having this diversification aspect and interesting aspect of being able to use both fiat money and crypto money, right? But one of the big barriers at the moment for retail, and pretty much anyone around the world has this kind of thought process, is that, well, I love this idea and this concept, but I just want the normal money, right? The dollars, the pounds, the whatever currency you have in your country, the euro, etc. This is where it gets interesting for this particular project and topic for me. XRP or XRPayNet is of course a derivative or indeed something that is built on the XRP Ledger, Ripple Ledger. Okay, so we've already got a substantial piece of foundation work here in both the transactions aspect, the cross-border payments in terms of reductions of cost, the speed, the efficiency, the green sustainability aspect that Ripple always go on and on about. But then we also have the ability here. Every business will receive settlement in their standard fiat currency as the consumer spends their crypto all in one transaction. So what you've got here, and bear in mind how many retailers they're hiring here in the UK, and of course your own countries around the world, how many retailers you've got, restaurants, cafes, whatever, you name it. Opening this up is massive. Now, I'm not saying it's the only solution, but it's one of the biggest ones I've seen because of its interaction with XRP in general and Ripple. And being an investor of XRP, of course, you do take note because you're like, okay, this is all starting to build a very nice story and narrative for the years to come, or even now. Joining the waiting list for crypto cards and things like this. I mean, I've got a couple. I've got Crypto.com's one. I don't use it anymore because they removed all the rewards, which was one of the exciting things of why I got it. I've now got a Ledger one. I don't really expect rewards from it, but you do get some form of cashbacks. But it's more interesting for me to see that utilization, to prepare your mind that this is the way the world is going. So to just get used to it quicker, really. Just like when I remember the first time I had a contactless payment, I was like, what on earth are you talking about? And they said, just tap your card on it. And that must have been like 5-6 years ago, if I remember correctly. And I was like, this is amazing. The speed, the quickness of it, not having to mess about with cash or put your card in, PIN numbers, all this kind of thing. It was just pure straightforward. And then, of course, the spend increases have occurred and whatnot moving forward as well. But of course, there's some really big things here about blockchain, of course. The transactional verification, the processing, the traceability, all of these things where it can give a big advantage compared to the existing ways of paying for things and buying things, right? So we've got all these really interesting and positive narratives we just mentioned about the sustainability aspect of it being big as well. Companies are very conscious about how sustainable they are. This adds another dimension, of course, but look at this. Over 90,000 trading pairs. Borderless, permissionless, dominant. I'm really excited about this. It has been talked to me for some time within our WhatsApp group and Telegram group. I've been pestered so many times to try and do a video or get around to actually researching this properly. And I said, guys, cool. I'm in a bit more of a better position now to add some new tokens to my asset portfolio. I'm particularly interested in ones that are related to finance and the way of the evolution of how we spend and use money, right? So look at this, $2.5 billion was spent by consumers on prepaid crypto cards in 3 months. In 3 months, from the end of 2021 to the start of 2022. No top-ups, no pre-exchanges from crypto to fiat. Visa process $11 trillion on non-crypto related transactions per year, meaning that the crypto spending consumers do not have the right market conditions to fulfill the needs of them and the retailers. This is where this project comes in. And this could be actually revolutionary, really, of how we do things. I've got a few topic points here. XRP Ledger based XRP, I'm going to get this right fluently one day, XRPayNet, I'm so used to saying XRP, XRPayNet based on the XRP Ledger, of course, to build retail payment system for hundreds of UAE businesses. Now, of course, UAE is huge with crypto, has been for some time. But this kind of news is massive. The amount of money that's within these regions and these countries is phenomenal as it is. The speed at which their economies are growing will be sped up even more with the utilization of something like this. And you give people more power, more flexibility of how they want to spend things. There comes a question and a time in my head where I'm like, at what point down the line does this stop? Because we could sit here and make money. We could manipulate markets to get more money in here and then spend it. When's it all going to stabilize? When can we have this kind of like level aspect? Because in my head, I'm still sitting there going like, well, how is this going to be possible to sustain moving forward? Because all we'll have is like Dogecoin, for example, manipulation to rise that up significantly quickly, make loads of money off it, stuck it on our cards and then spend it. But then some of them will be going down, and it is still things in my head where I'm sort of, trying to anticipate where's the momentum of this going. But this is really interesting technology evolution, and I'm very excited to see how this progresses. A few other things here as well. When we talk about markets and the utilization of something, we're already in a very cashless society now. It's sped up massively over the last couple of years for obvious reasons. I did preempt this, by the way. 3 or 4 years before that. But the average contactless payment increases by almost 30% since the new 100 limit was introduced. So people are already used to using their phones or their tap and go cards, right? So we've got this behavior, this psychology being built into people already. When you start talking about cryptocurrencies and the ability of flexibility of you being your own bank, your own system, this can be very interesting moving forward as well. And particularly here in the UK, there's a lot of money flowing in and out based on contactless payments. So here, for example, data shows a total of 13.1 billion contactless payments were made in the year, equivalent of 415 transactions per second, to a value 2021 also increased, reaching 165.9 billion pounds. Unbelievable. Total number of contactless transactions building and building. If we can add cryptocurrency opportunities to this and the flexibility, these numbers will go up significantly higher, because all I hear, and I'm sure you do, and I'm sure you even asking the questions yourselves, how can I use a debit card that can use crypto? Or how and where can I use crypto? For sure, you can use PayPal and some other services at the moment, but the fact of the matter is with XRP's element or the XRPayNet element of converting that instantly to fiat removes that concern that the retailers have, and then adds another dimension of the type of customer, or indeed just the extra monetary value that their customers can bring because they have that functionality. The numbers of crypto users are very small still, we have to understand this, but the amount of money that's accumulated in them and the flexibility and the ease of the use of the crypto internally within exchanges and how we use them on ledgers, etc., can then be cross-referenced and used in the retail environments. Almost 2,000% increase in traders offering buy now, pay later credit since 2020. I'm bringing up this point because one of the big factors coming very soon, if not already out, buy now, pay later with crypto, online in store, with our mobile app, 100% interest-free. Interest-free. This is going to increase phenomenally the economy and how fast we spend things. The question is, about this interest free, I need to double check this, because sometimes they say interest free and there's usually a backlog to say, well, if you haven't paid this back, you're going to have to get charged, right? But we have seen a lot of derivatives in crypto assets and liquidity pools and things like this to entice an element of restriction or perhaps some kind of safeguarding behind this. And we do know as well, of course, we mentioned in a couple of videos recently, and particularly one yesterday with Alliance Block, this element of liquidity pools. Liquidity becomes even more important because these guys need the money in the background to be able to warrant and utilize a service to be able to provide this kind of thing, right? Capital is no different to any other bank or retailer right now using a BNPL system. So back to this point, 2,000% increase since 2020. This is obvious reasons. The economy, the recession, inflation, all these things. People want something, but they're happy to perhaps spread it over a period of time. And actually more and more people are paying it back on time and in advance as well because of that flexibility, that usability. They love it, they enjoy it, and they want more of it. But to get more of it, you need to be on par with how you pay for things, make sure they're on time, make sure you don't miss payments and all these things, right? Here in the UK, attracted over 17 million customers in Britain on buy now, pay later systems. We have Klarna here, which is very big. There's a few others as well. But this is huge. This is huge because if, for example, in the next bull run, we have a lot of nice, wonderful money from our gains and we want to go and buy things, buy cars or whatever it might be on buy now, pay laters with our crypto. This is crazy, right? From money that's just been accumulated pretty much out of thin air and computing and blockchain, etc. This is where I have the question of like, well, where does the line be drawn of how we accumulate this, and is it fair to do that kind of thing? More and more people on the outside are jumping in because they'd be like, wait, what? You're just getting all this money? And of course, there's reasons why the up and down, of course, but people don't always see it that way. They just want to jump in because they see the interest, the FOMO, right? There's going to be really interesting developments over the next few years, in my opinion. A quarter of the people in Europe are now using BNPL. That's a huge number, a huge number. They mentioned here about the statistics we made about this, but here, look at this. Increased by 52% to over 20 billion in 2022 compared to 2021. By the end of the decade, it's expected to be worth $4 trillion. $4 trillion. And this is just talking about BNPL in general. Add the crypto perspective on top of that. It is going to be phenomenal. Phenomenal. And then we question ourselves, do we even need banks anymore? Well, you have to ask yourself, and I remember covering this last year, it was one of the first videos I did, how many banks are closing here in the UK since 2015? It's phenomenal because we don't really need them anymore. We have online banking. The people have disappeared. We have to now talk to robots, right? But the point is, the whole flexibility aspect of cashless society was to then remove the banking system and bring in new systems, CBDCs, for example, and potentially cryptocurrencies, depending on which ones we're allowed to use in a few years' time, will depend on regulation and the standardizations, for example, and all of those things, right? So I think this is really interesting. But there's more and more banks closing left, right, and center. My local ones have all disappeared. I have to try and talk to people on these silly robotic chat things, and I just give up. I can't be bothered. That's why I'm starting to use my Ledger more and buy things through the Ledger, and also hopefully one day be able to utilize that in some aspects. You obviously with integrated tax builders and things like this to make sure you're paying the right enough tax before you go and spend, etc. Otherwise, people are just going to have a free for all, right? But I think this is all very interesting, and if you think about it. This gives massive utility, but also a huge solution bearing for projects like this to move forward. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. As cash disappears more and more, digital utilization is increasing more and more. Flexibility of how you spend is improving and increasing all the time. It makes this phenomenal. Now, unfortunately, guys, I don't have this on TradeView, but I wanted to make it clear about something. This particular project has quite a bit of volume going in and out, certainly over the last few days. My point being about this is it will only take a few really good announcements and you'll see some really big spikes. So my recommendation on this is to keep an eye constantly of the news and updates of this project. Because the token price is so low, that it's very easy to obtain a lot of volume here. And in the announcements, its early stages of development and its life cycle as an asset in general and a project, it's not going to take too much for those big jumps to come in and out. So it's definitely worth it because you had one big one back here and we had the recent one. This came off the back of the UAE announcement, right? As we jumped almost in terms of anticipation by the rumor, sell the news, as it were, looking at that 0.001 mark all the way up here to 0.006. So that's quite an interesting move really in such a short space of time. But that's my point being to really look out for that. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I don't hold this yet. I want to hold this, but I'm just waiting for a bit more of a release off those top markers. I wish I had TradeView, but what I mean here is I'm looking at this first support line, potentially resistance if it does bounce around here. That's at 0.001. So I'm looking to accumulate between that point and one of these recent points here. We did actually touch this point recently, I think yesterday or the day before, and this was at 0.005. So it's not massively far off where we are right now. In terms of the conversation, but I do want to see if we can get some lower regions possible for me personally in my portfolio to add this token. I think this is phenomenal. My understanding of retail, my experience in retail, all the knowledge I have, I know what kind of solutions will work really well in this space. And I'm sure it won't just stop there. And we're not just talking about high streets and retail shops. As I said, it can be anything and everything that you see in your high streets or streets in general, right? That can allow a payment mechanism. Currently able to buy this on Bitrue. Mexi I haven't got personally. I know a lot of people out there use that. Bitrue and these guys aren't ones yet through CoinMarketCap where you can see information about the reserves. Albeit Bitrue, I tend to buy things very quickly and take them off and put them into my ledger, etc. In terms of storage, I'll probably cover that in the next video. But if anyone wants to drop in the comments where you can store that, that would be great. But yeah, for me right now, it's just keeping an eye on these price points, see if they come down a bit lower. I will be utilizing Bitrue for this one in particular to buy off the exchange. I don't have the others, can't be able to set up more exchanges. And I'll for sure be moving those across to any hardware ledger or wallet if possible, as I try to with all my assets. One other quick thing, guys, albeit that the volumes are very good as well. This is interesting. The 300 million mark on a fully diluted market cap, 25 million or just under 26 million to be fair in a general market cap utilization. This is huge in terms of its abilities to move forward. I think that this will potentially be one of those $1 billion markers in the next bull run, in all honesty, because I think more and more people hear about this. They'll love more and more about the integration with XRP in general, the XRP Ledger. And if you know Ripple, if you know XRP, you already understand what these guys are doing worldwide, how fast they're going to make payments, how amazing they're going to be with cross-border as well. This means you go around the world, not have any fees or problems, in instant transactions. Instant. And I think this is too much of a big opportunity to miss. But yeah, of course, the price is very low, so you can accumulate heavily with this. And I can just see a nice story building over the next few years of the utilization of this project and its tokenization, and the way it's utilized is very important, of course, in terms of research and understanding what they do first and foremost. But we have to understand the supply here, 4.45 billion. So there's a lot out there, but that could be easily taken up. And I need to look into this a bit more detail, but I just wanted to throw this video out there because I think this is really interesting. Let us know in the comments below if you're holding this token. If you have any thoughts as well, like I do, from the aspect of utilization and the solution itself. I'm all ears. But I'm going to be bagging this one when it comes down a bit more after the nice uprise that it's had over the last week or so. Guys, I'm going to leave that there. I think this is really interesting. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you in the next update video of XRPayNet. I think I got that right. Probably messed it up again. But yeah, for sure, we'll be covering this more often. I'm really excited. Thank you. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.